practice on 4, 5, and 6. So these are all similar to what we just did in our practice. So think about if you see this addition or subtraction, undoing those first and then dividing or multiplying. All right, so number 4, m divided by 2 plus 6 equals 10. So obviously the first step we see addition, so we need to undo that addition by subtracting. So we're going to subtract 6 from both sides. These are going to cancel out. So we're going to be left with m divided by 2 equals 10 minus 6, which is positive 4. Pretty easy. So m divided by 2, that's division. We have to undo it by multiplying. So we're going to multiply 2 by both sides. So these are going to cancel out. We're going to be left with m equals 4 times 2, which is positive 8. So m equals positive 8. All right, number 5. Negative z divided by 3 plus 5 equals 9. So first step, we see that plus sign, so that we know that we have to undo that with a subtraction. So we're going to subtract 5. So we have negative z over 3 equals 9 minus 5, which equals positive 4. So our next step here, and this kind of looks like a 2, so I'm going to put a little line so you guys can see that that's a z. Our next step here is to undo this multiplication. So we're going to we're going to undo this division by multiplying. So we're going to multiply by negative 3. And we're going to be left with z equals 4 times negative 3 is negative 12. Z equals negative 12. All right, last but not least, number 6. 2/5 or 2 divided by 5, 2/5 plus 4a, or 4 times a, equals negative 6/5, or negative 6 over 5. So first we see this plus sign. This is plus 2/5, so to undo that we're going to subtract 2/5 from both sides. So these cancel out, so we have 4a equals negative 6 over 5 minus 2 over 5. And just like on the first page we talked about when we did our integers unit, when we're subtracting we can keep, flip, change. So we're going to keep the negative 6 over 5, we're going to change the subtraction to addition, and then we're going to change the positive 2/5 to negative 2/5. So now we can subtract those. So 4a equals negative 6 over 5 plus negative 2 over 5 is going to be negative 8 over 5. Negative 8 over 5. So now we are left with our one-step equation. So we have 4 times a equals negative 8 over 5. And so this is multiplication. So to undo multiplication, we have to divide. So we're going to divide by 4 on both sides. I'm going to take this up here because I'm running out of a little bit of room. So I'm going to be left with a equals negative 8/5 divided by 4. And hopefully you guys remember from our previous units that when we're dividing, we have to multiply by the reciprocal. So when we're dividing, we have to multiply by the reciprocal, so negative 8/5 stays the same. We change this to multiplication, and we change the 4 to 1 over 4. So looking at this, you are welcome to multiply across and then simplify later. I'm going to simplify first because I like to have my smaller numbers. So looking at diagonal at 8 and 4, we know that we can divide by 4 on both. So 4 divided by 4 is 1, and negative 8 divided by 4 is negative 2. So I'm left with a equals negative 2 times 1 is negative 2, and then 5 times 1 is 5. So my answer is a equals negative 2/5. Negative 2/5. Hopefully you guys got those 3 right. If not, please pause the video, go over the steps that what you did and the steps that you just saw I did and see what you did wrong, or if you need to come up and ask me a question, if you're still not getting something, please let me know. If you're feeling good, we can go ahead and move on to page 3. So the last part of solving two-step equations is what if you have like terms. So what we can do here is we can combine our like terms before solving. So for instance, if we have 3y minus 8y equals 25, well, if you notice, these are like terms because they both have y. So we can combine those first. So 3y minus 8y would be negative 5y equals 25. And now we can solve for this. We can undo the operation. So obviously negative 5y is multiplication, so we're going to divide by negative 5 on both sides to undo that operation. Those negative 5's cancel out. So we have y equals 25 divided by negative 5 equals negative 5. So on 7, 8, and 9, all you guys are going to be doing is the same thing. So looking at, are there terms that are there like terms that I can simplify before I solve the rest of the equation? So remember, terms either have the same variable or they're just whole numbers. So think about that as you go into 7, 8, and 9. All right, number 7, 4 minus 2y plus 3 equals negative 9. So there's only one term that has a y in it, so we can't combine anything else with that. But if you look at 4 and 3, those are like terms, so we can combine those. So here we have negative 2y plus 7. Negative 2y plus 7. And the other way you could have wrote that is 7 minus 2y. So either way would have been fine. But I'm just going to keep it like this. So negative 2y plus 7 equals negative 9. So now that we've combined, we can simplify. So we see this addition, we know that we have to subtract 7 to undo that operation. Those cancel out. So we have negative 2y equals negative 9 minus 7, which we should already know in our head we can keep flip change. And that will equal negative 16. So negative 2y equals negative 16. And then to undo that operation of negative 2 times y, we need to divide. So we're going to divide by negative 2 on both sides. Those cancel out. So we have y equals negative 16 divided by negative 2 is positive 8. Because 8 times negative 2 is negative 16. So y equals negative 8. All right, let's try 8. 7x minus 10x equals 15. So first, both of these terms have x's, so we can combine them. And 7x minus 10x, or just 7 minus 10, is negative 3x. So you have negative 3x equals positive 15. We know that negative 3x is multiplication, so we need to divide both sides by negative 3. These 3's are going to cancel out, and we're going to be left with x equals 15 divided by negative 3, which equals negative 5. So x equals negative 5. All right, let's try this last one. I'm going to erase some of my work up here so I have more room. Let's try our last one. Negative 8 equals 1.3 minus 2.1 m. So this one was a little bit more tricky. So the first thing is we can combine these m's. 1.3 m minus 2.1 m. And so I'm going to go ahead and stack these up. So I know that my answer is going to be negative because I can see I'm taking a larger number away from a smaller number. But to subtract, I'm still going to put the bigger number on top. And then I'm going to, in this answer down here, I'm going to put my negative so I don't forget already. So 2.1y is 1.3. I need to borrow from this 2. That makes that 1. Makes this one 11. 11 minus 3 is 8. I'm going to bring down that decimal point, and then 1 minus 1 is 0. So my answer here is negative 0.8 m equals negative 8. All right, so now I undid, actually I didn't undo anything, I just combined. And so now that I have combined, I can undo my operation to solve. So negative 0.8 m is multiplication, so I'm going to go ahead and divide both sides by negative 0.8. So these 0.8 are going to cancel out, so I'm going to be left with negative 8 divided by negative 0.8 equals m. So remember from our integers unit when we were talking about dividing decimals, whatever decimal first you're going to divide by is going to go on the outside of that little division cave. So this number is going to go on the outside. And because that number goes on the outside, because that's what you're dividing by, you need to make sure that's a whole number. And since it's not, hopefully you guys remember, all we have to do is we have to move this decimal place over 1. So that turns into negative 8. And because we moved that one, we have to move the other. So in 8, the decimal point would be right here, and we're moving it over 1 more. If we move it over 1 more, we have to add in a 0. So we would have negative 80. So we're going to have negative 8 divided by 8. Hopefully you guys can kind of do this in your head. So how many times does negative 8 go into negative 80? That would be positive 10. Because remember, a negative divided by a negative is going to be a positive. And you can go ahead and check your work. What's negative 8 times positive 10? It's negative 80, which is 0, if you subtract those. So our answer here, m equals positive 10. All right, so hopefully you guys got those right, or if you didn't, by hearing and watching me go through them, it makes more sense. If something still is confusing you, you're not 100% sure on a certain step I did, please come see me and ask me, because I definitely don't want you guys to be confused by any of this, because now we can go in and do practice on Clever. But I want to make sure that you guys understand every practice problem, every problem that we went over in these notes. And if you don't, either go back and watch this video, try the practice problems again on your own, go through your steps, or come and see me and get some help so that you're not confused on the Clever assignment. All right, so if you guys don't need help, you guys can go ahead and start Clever. Otherwise,